The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. I stood at our apartment window, watching droplets race down the glass like they were competing for something neither of them could win. Behind me, I could hear Ethan moving around in the kitchen. The clink of a spoon against ceramic, the soft whistle of the kettle reaching its peak. These were the sounds that had become my home over the past 8 months, more than the creaking radiator or the neighbor's muffled television through the walls. Coffee? Ethan's voice cut through my thoughts, warm and familiar. Please, I said. Turning from the window, he stood there in his worn NYU sweatshirt, the one with the small hole near the hem that he refused to throw away. His dark hair was still messy from sleep, falling across his forehead in that effortless way that made my chest tighten every single morning. I'd learned to hide that reaction, to keep my face neutral, to accept the coffee with steady hands. You're up early, he observed, handing me the mug. Our fingers brushed, they always did, and I wondered if he felt that current of electricity too, or if it only ran one way. Couldn't sleep, I admitted, wrapping both hands around the warmth. Big presentation today. Ethan leaned against the counter, studying me with those hazel eyes that seemed to shift color depending on his mood. Green when he was excited, brown when he was thoughtful, something in between when he was worried. Right now, they were decidedly green. You're going to kill it, Marcus. You always do. The confidence in his voice made me believe it, even though my stomach was twisted with nerves. That was Ethan's gift. He made you believe in yourself simply because he believed in you first. We'd met at a coffee shop near campus, both reaching for the same table during the lunch rush. He'd smiled, said something about fate, and suggested we share it. 2 hours later, we were still talking. A week after that, I was helping him move boxes into this apartment. A month later, when my lease ended, and he casually mentioned his roommate had just moved out, it felt inevitable. Living with Ethan was equal parts heaven and torture. Heaven because every day I got to witness the small intimacies of his life. The way he hummed while cooking, how he fell asleep on the couch during movies, his terrible habit of leaving cabinet doors open. Torture because I wanted more than witnessing. I wanted to be the reason he hummed, the person he fell asleep against, the one who got to close those cabinets while teasing him about it. But Ethan was straight, or at least I'd assumed he was. He'd mentioned ex-girlfriends in passing. Never dated anyone in the time we'd lived together, and never given me any indication that he saw me as anything other than his friend and roommate. I'd made peace with that, or at least I'd tried to. Marcus. Ethan's voice pulled me back. You zoned out. Sorry, just thinking about the presentation. He didn't look convinced, but he let it go. That was another thing about Ethan. He knew when to push and when to give you space. The day blurred by in a haze of PowerPoint slides and client questions. My presentation went well. Ethan had been right, as usual. But by the time I got home, I was exhausted in a way that went deeper than physical tiredness. The apartment was dark, except for the soft glow from the living room. I found Ethan curled up on the couch, laptop balanced on his knees, wearing his reading glasses. He only wore them when he was really concentrating, and something about the sight made my heart ache with affection. Hey, he said, looking up with a smile that could have powered the entire city. How'd it go? Good. Really good, actually. Told you. He closed the laptop and patted the space next to him. Come sit. You look like you need to decompress. I dropped my bag and joined him, sinking into the familiar cushions. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the kind you can only share with someone who knows you well enough that words aren't always necessary. Marcus, Ethan said finally. His voice different somehow, uncertain. Can I ask you something? Of course. He shifted to face me, pulling one leg up onto the couch. His hands fidgeted with the hem of his sweatshirt, a nervous tell I'd learned to recognize. It's kind of a strange question, and if it's too weird or if it makes you uncomfortable, just say so and we'll never mention it again. My pulse quickened. Okay, my sister's getting married in 3 weeks. This wasn't what I'd expected, right? The destination wedding. Vermont, right? Yeah. He took a breath. The thing is, I told my family I'd be bringing someone. I said it months ago, before Sarah and I broke up, and I never corrected them. And now my mom keeps asking about it, And my sister wants to know for seating arrangements. And he ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I know I should have said something earlier, but I kept putting it off, and now it's too late. So ask someone, I said, trying to ignore the spike of jealousy at the thought of him taking a date. You have plenty of friends who'd probably love a weekend in Vermont. That's the thing. He met my eyes. And I saw something there I couldn't quite name. Nervousness, hope, fear. I don't want to ask just anyone. I want to ask you. The world seemed to tilt slightly on its axis. Me. I know it's a lot to ask. It's a whole weekend, and you'd have to meet my entire family. So when weddings are kind of intense even when you're not pretending to be someone's boyfriend. But he stopped abruptly. Sorry, I'm rambling. I do that when I'm nervous, pretending to be his boyfriend. The words echoed in my head, both thrilling and painful. Why me? I asked quietly. Ethan looked down at his hands. Because you're the person I'm most comfortable with. Because I trust you. Because he trailed off, then seemed to gather his courage. Because when I imagine spending a weekend like that with someone, you're the only person I actually want there. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. I'll pay for everything, he continued quickly. The hotel room? Well, we'd have to share, but I can sleep on the floor or get a rollaway bed or something. And I promise I'll make it up to you. I know it's awkward, asking you to pretend to be my boyfriend when you're actually... He paused. When we're just friends? There were so many things I wanted to say. So many questions I wanted to ask. Instead, I heard myself say, what would I need to do? Hope flared in his eyes. Nothing complicated, just be there with me. Maybe hold my hand during the ceremony. Dance with me at the reception. Enough that my family believes we're together. Hold his hand. Dance with him. Pretend to be his boyfriend. It was a terrible idea. Spending an entire weekend acting out a fantasy that would never be real, only to come home and go back to being just roommates. It would be torture. But looking at Ethan's face, seeing the vulnerability there, the way he was asking me for help, how could I possibly say no? Okay, I said. I'll do it. The relief that washed over his features was immediate. Really? You're sure? I'm sure. He broke into that brilliant smile, the one that made his whole face light up. Before I could process what was happening, he'd wrapped me in a hug, pulling me close against his chest. I let myself sink into it for just a moment, breathing in the scent of his cologne and laundry detergent, feeling the solid warmth of him. Thank you, he murmured against my hair. Seriously, Marcus. You're saving my life. When he pulled back, his hands lingered on my shoulders for just a second longer than necessary. Our faces were close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in his hazel eyes. We should probably talk about logistics, I said, my voice slightly unsteady. If we're going to convince your family, we need to have our story straight, right? Yeah, settled back against the couch, but closer now, his knee touching mine. So how did we get together? And there it was, the moment where fantasy and reality began to blur. Well, I said slowly, we're already living together. We could say it just happened naturally. That we were friends first, and then one day we realized it was something more. Ethan nodded, his eyes locked on mine. When what? When did we realize? If someone asks how long we've been together, we need to know. I thought about it. 3 months? Long enough that it's serious, but new enough that we're still in that honeymoon phase where we can't keep our hands off each other. The words hung in the air between us. Ethan's cheeks flushed slightly, or maybe it was just the lamplight. 3 months, he repeated. Okay, and who made the first move? You did? I said, surprising myself. You kissed me first, did I? His voice was soft, almost wondering. Where? Here, on this couch. We were watching a movie and you just went for it. It was so easy to imagine. I could almost convince myself it had really happened. Ethan was quiet for a moment, his gaze dropping to my lips before quickly looking away. I can work with that. We talked for another hour, building our fictional relationship, piece by piece. Favorite dates: the botanical gardens, a jazz club downtown. Pet peeves I allegedly hated when he left his socks on the bathroom floor. He couldn't stand how I organized the fridge. Inside jokes, still working on those? The more we talked, the more real it felt, the more dangerous this whole situation became. Finally, Ethan yawned, checking his phone. It's late. We should probably get some sleep. I nodded, standing up. Yeah, big day tomorrow, Marcus. He stood too, catching my hand before I could leave. Thank you, really. I know this is weird, but it means a lot. His hand was warm in mine, his thumb unconsciously stroking across my knuckles. I wondered if he knew he was doing it. What are roommates for? I said lightly, trying to keep the moment from becoming too heavy. He smiled, but there was something in his expression I couldn't quite read. Right, roommates? I went to bed that night with my mind racing, replaying every moment of our conversation. I'd agreed to spend a weekend pretending to be in love with Ethan, knowing full well that for me, it wouldn't be pretending at all. What had I just gotten myself into? The 3 weeks before the wedding passed in a strange, suspended way, Ethan started touching me more. Casual things that could be explained away as friendly, but felt like something else entirely. A hand on the small of my back when we moved around the kitchen. His arms slung over my shoulders while we watched TV. Fingers brushing mine when he handed me my coffee in the morning. Practice, he'd said the first time I'd tensed at the contact. We need to look natural together, right? Natural. The word was laughable. There was nothing natural about the way my skin felt electrified every time he touched me, or how I caught myself leaning into his space without thinking, or the way I'd started noticing everything, how his eyes crinkled when he laughed, the way he bit his lower lip when he was thinking, the sound of his breathing when he fell asleep on the couch beside me. We were playing with fire, and I was the only one who knew it. The drive to Vermont was 5 hours of contained chaos. Ethan had made a playlist of what he called our songs, a mix of indie rock and alternative that he claimed we'd bonded over. Every time a new song came on, he'd tell me some fabricated story about it. This one, he said, as a Hosier track filled the car. This was playing the first time I kissed you. I thought our first kiss was during a movie. It was but this was playing in my head. He grinned at me from the driver's seat, and my heart did that familiar flip. You're enjoying this too much, I observed. Am I? He reached over and took my hand, lacing our fingers together on the center console. Just getting into character. His thumb traced circles on my palm, and I had to close my eyes against the wave of longing that swept through me. Tell me about your family, I said, needing the distraction. What should I expect? Ethan's expression softened. My mom is going to love you. She's warm, a little overbearing, but she means well. My dad is quiet, but he's sharp. He'll be watching to see if I'm happy. My sister Emily is the bride, obviously. She's brilliant and kind, and probably already stalking your social media. Great. My brother David will give you a hard time, but it's how he shows affection. My Aunt Carol drinks too much at family events and gets weepy. Uncle Joe will try to talk your ear off about golf. And there are about 15 cousins who will all want to know everything about you. No pressure. He squeezed my hand. You'll be fine. Just be yourself. That's all I need. If only he knew how impossible that was. Being myself while pretending to be his boyfriend. Hiding my real feelings while performing fake ones. The inn was picture perfect. A restored colonial building with white columns and black shutters. Surrounded by trees just beginning to turn gold and crimson with early autumn. Ethan pulled into the parking lot and killed the engine, but neither of us moved. Ready? He asked. As I'll ever be. He turned to face me fully, his expression serious. If this gets too weird or if you want to leave at any point, just say the word. I'll drive you home. No questions asked. I'll be fine, Ethan. I mean it. His hand came up to cup my cheek, thumb brushing my cheekbone. The gesture was so tender it took my breath away. I don't want you to be uncomfortable. I leaned into his touch before I could stop myself. I'm not. For a moment, we just looked at each other. His eyes had gone that in-between color, hazel shifting in the late afternoon light. I wondered what he saw when he looked at me. A friend doing him a favor? Or something more? Ethan, Marcus. The moment shattered as a woman's voice rang out across the parking lot. Ethan dropped his hand, and we both turned to see a woman in her mid-50s hurrying toward us, arms already outstretched. "That's my mom," Ethan muttered. Opening his door, I barely had time to step out of the car before she was embracing Ethan. Then turning to me with a warmth that was immediately disarming. "Must be Marcus." "Oh, Ethan didn't tell me you were so handsome." She pulled me into a hug that smelled like vanilla and something floral. "I'm Linda. It's so wonderful to finally meet you." "You too, Mrs. Chen. Oh, please call me Linda." She pulled back, looking between us with undisguised delight. "Look at you too. Ethan, you didn't tell me he had such kind eyes?" Ethan's cheeks flushed. "Mom, come. Everyone's dying to meet Marcus." Emily has been beside herself with curiosity. She looped her arm through mine, already leading me toward the inn. Ethan caught up on my other side, his hand finding mine again. I glanced at him, and he gave me a small, apologetic smile that said, "I told you she was a lot." The next few hours were a whirlwind of introductions. Emily, the bride, was a whirlwind of nervous energy and genuine kindness. She hugged me like I was already family and whispered, "Thank you for making my brother happy." I haven't seen him smile like this in years. Ethan's father, Robert, shook my hand with a firm grip and a measuring look that softened when Ethan put his arm around my waist. "Good to meet you, son." Ethan's younger brother was exactly as advertised. He subjected me to a rapid-fire interrogation about everything from my job to my favorite basketball team. But there was no malice in it, just protective brotherly energy. The cousins were a blur of names and faces. Aunt Carol was already tipsy and proclaimed us the most beautiful couple she'd ever seen. Uncle Joe did indeed try to talk to me about golf. Through it all, Ethan stayed close. His hand found mine, or rested on my back, or his fingers would tangle in the hem of my shirt when we sat together. Each touch sent electricity through me. I had to keep reminding myself it wasn't real. That night, after the rehearsal dinner, we finally made it to our room. It was smaller than I'd expected. One queen bed dominating the space, a small bathroom, a single armchair by the window. "I can take the chair," Ethan said immediately, "or the floor. I'll ask the front desk for extra blankets." "Ethan, it's fine. The bed is big enough for both of us. You're sure?" I wasn't sure of anything anymore, but I nodded. We got ready for bed in awkward silence, taking turns in the bathroom. When I came out in my sleep shirt and shorts, Ethan was already under the covers on the far side of the bed, looking at his phone. He glanced up when I approached, and something flickered across his face too quickly for me to identify. I slid under the covers, maintaining a careful distance between us. The mattress dipped slightly with our combined weight, creating a valley in the middle that seemed determined to pull us together. "Today went well," Ethan said, setting his phone aside. "My family loves you. They're great. Your mom is exactly how you described her." He laughed softly. Overbearing. Warm. We lay there in the darkness, both staring at the ceiling. The silence stretched, comfortable and uncomfortable all at once. "Marcus." Ethan's voice was quiet. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Why aren't you? I mean, are you seeing anyone? Back home?" My heart rate picked up. "No. Why not?" "You're..." He paused, seeming to search for words. "You're amazing. You must have guys lining up." I turned my head to look at him. He was already looking at me, his face barely visible in the darkness. "I've been focused on other things," I said carefully. "Work, life, living with an amazing roommate. Are you happy?" The question was so earnest it hurt. "Living with me? I mean, is it enough? What kind of question is that?" "I don't know," shifted onto his side, facing me fully. "Sometimes I worry that you're missing out on things because you're stuck with me. That you should be out there meeting people, not spending your weekends watching movies with your roommate." "I like watching movies with my roommate," I said, mirroring his position. We were close now, sharing the same pillow. "Besides, I'm not stuck with you. I choose to be there, do you?" His hand moved across the sheets, fingers finding mine in the space between us. Choose to be there? Every day. The confession hung between us. Ethan's thumb stroked across my knuckles. I realized he'd done this gesture so many times over the past few weeks, it had become habit. "I'm glad," he whispered. "I don't know what I'd do without you. We'll never have to find out," I wanted to say. "I'm not going anywhere." But I kept quiet, just held his hand in the darkness and tried to memorize the moment. The warmth of his skin, the sound of his breathing, the way the moonlight through the window made his eyes shine. Eventually, we drifted apart to our respective sides of the bed. But sometime during the night, I woke to find myself curled against Ethan's back, my arm around his waist. He was still asleep, his hand covering mine where it rested against his chest. I should have moved. I should have rolled away and maintained the distance we were supposed to keep. Instead, I let myself have this. Just for a few more minutes. Just until morning, the wedding day dawned bright and clear. I woke alone in bed, sunlight streaming through the windows. I could hear the shower running in the bathroom. And the sound of Ethan humming something off-key made me smile despite myself. When he emerged in a cloud of steam, wrapped in a towel, I forgot how to breathe. "Sorry, did I wake you?" he asked, running another towel through his wet hair. No, I sat up, looking anywhere but at his bare chest. I should get ready too. The ceremony was at 4. We spent the morning with his family, Ethan's hand a constant presence on my back, my shoulder laced with mine. His mother kept taking photos of us, declaring us too precious for words. When it was time to get ready, we retreated to our room. Ethan had brought a dark blue suit that made his eyes look impossibly green. I watched him struggle with his tie in the mirror, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Here," I said, coming up behind him. I turned him to face me, reaching up to fix his collar. We were close enough that I could smell his cologne. See the faint shadow of stubble on his jaw that he'd missed while shaving. "You're good at this," he observed, as I worked the silk into a perfect Windsor knot. "My dad taught me." I smoothed the tie down, my hands lingering on his chest. "For school dances and job interviews?" "Tell me about him," Ethan said softly. "Your dad. You don't talk about your family much." I met his eyes. "My parents. They didn't take it well. When I came out, we don't really talk anymore." Understanding and sadness crossed his face. "Marcus, it's okay. It was a long time ago." I stepped back, breaking the moment. "I have friends. I have chosen family. It's enough. It shouldn't have to be." His hand caught mine. "You deserve better than that. You deserve people who see how incredible you are. Do you?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. "See how incredible I am?" Ethan's eyes darkened. "Every single day." We stood there, frozen in a moment that felt poised on the edge of something. His thumb was tracing that familiar pattern on my palm, and I could see his chest rising and falling with quickened breaths. The alarm on his phone shattered the spell. "We should go," he said, voice rough. "Don't want to be late." The ceremony was beautiful. Emily looked radiant. Her groom couldn't stop crying happy tears. And the whole thing was suffused with so much love it was almost painful to witness. Ethan and I sat together, Herf's arm around my shoulders. Halfway through the vows, when the couple promised to choose each other every day, his hand found mine. He squeezed it gently, and when I looked at him, he was already looking at me. "Okay," he mouthed. I nodded, even though my heart was breaking and mending itself all at once. The reception was held in a barn that had been transformed into something magical. String lights, autumn flowers, candles everywhere. Dinner was a blur of toasts and laughter. Ethan kept his hand on my thigh under the table, his thumb drawing absent patterns that made it hard to focus on anything else. When the dancing started, he pulled me onto the floor. "I'm not a great dancer," I warned. "Neither am I." My arms came around my waist, pulling me close. "We'll figure it out together." We swayed to some soft acoustic cover of a song I didn't recognize. Around us, other couples moved in their own bubbles of happiness. But I only saw Ethan, the way the lights caught in his hair, how he bit his lip when he was concentrating on not stepping on my feet, the warmth in his eyes when he smiled at me. "Thank you," he said again, "for being here, For doing this, you keep thanking me, because I keep meaning it. He pulled me closer until our foreheads were almost touching. This weekend, having you here, introducing you to my family, it's felt more real than any relationship I've actually had. My breath caught. Ethan, I know we're just pretending, he continued, his voice barely audible over the music. I know this isn't real. But God, Marcus, sometimes I wish it was. The world stopped spinning. What? I managed. He pulled back just enough to look at me, his eyes searching mine. I wish this was real. You and me. Us. You're straight, I said, the words automatic. I thought I was. His laugh was shaky. And then I met you, and suddenly all my certainties started crumbling. I kept telling myself it was just friendship, that of course I loved you, but it was platonic. That the way I felt when you smiled at me was normal. But it's not, is it? It's not normal to want to be near someone every second of the day. It's not normal to lie awake at night thinking about them. It's not normal to feel like your heart might explode every time they laugh at your jokes. Ethan, I'm in love with you. Marcus. The words tumbled out in a rush, like he'd been holding them back for too long. I've been in love with you for months, maybe since the day we met. And I'm sorry if this ruins everything, but I can't spend another second pretending that this is just pretend. I stared at him, my mind struggling to process what he'd just said. Around us, people were still dancing, still celebrating, completely unaware that my entire world had just shifted on its axis. Say something, Ethan pleaded. Please. I love you too, I whispered. I've loved you this whole time. I thought you could never feel the same way. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. Really? Really? And then he was kissing me. It wasn't our first kiss. Technically, we'd kissed once before the ceremony when his Aunt Carol had demanded it, but this was different. This was real. His lips were soft and urgent against mine, his hands cupping my face like I was something precious. I kissed him back with months of pent-up longing, my fingers tangling in his hair, pulling him closer. When we finally broke apart, breathless and grinning, I realized the dance floor had gone quiet. Everyone was staring. Well, Emily called out, her voice filled with delight. It's about damn time. The room erupted in applause and cheers. Ethan laughed against my lips. I think they knew before we did. Your sister definitely did, I agreed. Dance with me, he asked, even though we were already in each other's arms. For real this time. For real, I confirmed, and we did. We danced through song after song, holding each other close, no longer pretending. Every touch, every look, every whispered word was finally gloriously real. The drive home was nothing like the drive there. Ethan held my hand the entire way, only letting go when he absolutely had to shift gears. We talked about everything and nothing. How his family had apparently been placing bets on when we'd finally get together. His mom won. How long we'd both been hiding our feelings. How different everything felt now that the truth was out. I can't believe you thought I was straight, Ethan said, shaking his head. He talked about his girlfriends. I dated girls because I thought I was supposed to. And then I met you, and suddenly everything made sense. All those relationships that never quite fit. The way I could never really connect with anyone, it's because I was waiting for you. My heart swelled. That's incredibly romantic. I've had months to think about it. He brought my hand to his lips, kissing my knuckles. I've mentally written you about 1,000 love letters. Yeah. Oh yeah. They're very poetic. Lots of metaphors about light and coming home and how your smile makes my entire day better. I'd like to read them someday. Maybe I'll actually write them now. He glanced at me, his expression soft. Now that I can. We stopped for dinner at a small diner off the highway, sitting on the same side of the booth, because neither of us could stand to be across from each other anymore. Ethan kept his arm around me, playing with my hair, while we waited for our food. What happens now? I asked quietly. What do you mean? When we get home? Do we tell people? Do you want to? He turned to face me fully. I'll follow your lead on this, Marcus. If you want to keep it private for a while, I understand. If you want to shout it from the rooftops, I'm there. I thought about it. I think I'd like to just... No big announcements, no fanfare. Just two guys who finally figured out what they mean to each other. I like that. He kissed my temple. Though I make no promises about not boring everyone at work with stories about my amazing boyfriend. Boyfriend. The word sent a thrill through me. I'm your boyfriend, I said, testing it out. You are? His smile was radiant. And I'm yours. If you'll have me? I've wanted you for so long, I admitted. Sometimes I feel like I'm going to wake up, and this will all be a dream. Not a dream. He laced our fingers together on the table. I promise you, this is real. We're real. Our food arrived, but neither of us moved to our respective sides of the booth. We ate one-handed, neither willing to let go of the other. My friends are going to lose their minds, I said between bites. They've been telling me for months that you felt the same way, and I kept insisting you didn't. My friends knew too, Ethan confessed. David actually called me out on it last month. Said I looked at you the way he looks at his wife. What did you say? I denied it. Very convincingly, I thought. But he just laughed and told me I was an idiot. Kinda were, I teased. We both were. But we figured it out. He kissed my cheek. That's what matters. By the time we got back to our apartment, it was nearly midnight. Ethan parked in our usual spot, but neither of us made a move to get out of the car. It's strange, I said, looking up at our building. Everything looks the same, but everything's different. The best different? We carried our bags upstairs in comfortable silence. The apartment greeted us with familiar smells and sounds. The hum of the refrigerator, the neighbor's TV, the creak of the floorboards we'd learned to avoid. Home, Ethan said. Setting down his bag, I put mine down too, suddenly nervous. So, do you want me to take my stuff back to my room, or no? He crossed to me in 3 strides, his hands cupping my face. I want you in my room. In our room. If you want that too, I want that. He kissed me then, slow and deep, with all the time in the world now that we weren't hiding anymore. I melted into him, my arms winding around his neck, and thought about how many times I'd imagined this exact moment in this exact spot. Bedroom. He murmured against my lips. Yes. We made our way down the hall, stopping every few steps to kiss again, to touch, to reassure ourselves this was happening. By the time we reached his room, our room, we were both breathless and grinning. Ethan's room was tidier than mine, minimalist, in a way that reflected his personality. Band posters on the walls, a desk covered in sketches he liked to draw when he couldn't sleep, a bookshelf overflowing with everything from philosophy to graphic novels. I used to lie here at night, he admitted, sitting on the edge of the bed and pulling me down beside him, and imagine you were with me, just sleeping next to me, you know? Nothing else, just being close. I did the same thing, I confessed. Sometimes I'd hear you through the wall, and I'd imagine what it would be like to fall asleep listening to you breathe. You don't have to imagine anymore. We got ready for bed slowly, taking turns in the bathroom, stealing kisses when we passed each other. When I emerged in my sleep clothes, Ethan was already under the covers, watching me with an expression that made my knees weak.
Come here, he said.
Lifting the blanket, I slid in beside him, and immediately he pulled me close, my back to his chest, his arm around my waist. It was exactly how we'd slept in Vermont, but this time there was no pretense. There's no morning panic about waking up in each other's arms. This okay? He asked, his breath warm against my neck. Perfect. We lay there in the darkness, his thumb tracing lazy patterns on my hip, my hand covering his. Marcus. His voice was quiet. I need you to know something, okay? I've never felt like this before. About anyone. Sometimes it scares me how much I feel for you. But then you smile at me, or you laugh at something stupid I said. Or you just exist in the same room as me, and I think this is it. This is what people write songs about. This is what makes all those love stories make sense. I turned in his arms to face him. I know exactly what you mean. You've ruined me for anyone else, Ethan Chen. Completely and utterly ruined me. Good. He kissed me softly. Because I plan on being with you for a very long time. How long? How does forever sound? Like a good start? We kissed until we were both breathless. until the kisses turned slower, sweeter. Eventually, we settled back into our embrace, my head on his chest, his fingers running through my hair. "Tell me something," I said sleepily. "Something I don't know about you." He was quiet for a moment, thinking. "I knew I was in love with you the day you brought me soup when I was sick. Remember? About 3 months ago? I had that terrible flu, and you stayed home from work to take care of me." I remembered. I'd been terrified he'd figure out how I felt, watching him sleep, making sure he took his medicine. "You kept checking on me," he continued, "even in the middle of the night. And at one point, I woke up and you were sitting next to the bed, reading, just being there in case I needed anything. And I thought, this is love. This is what it feels like. It scared the hell out of me. Why didn't you say anything? I thought I'd lose you. If I told you, and you didn't feel the same way, I'd lose my best friend. I couldn't risk that. I would have felt the same way," I assured him. "I already did. I know that now." He kissed the top of my head. "Your turn. Tell me something." I used to make excuses to stay in the living room until you got home from work," I admitted. "Even if I was tired, even if I had work to do in my room. I'd find reasons to be out there, just so I could see you when you walked in." "I did the same thing," he laughed. "We're both idiots, happy idiots now, though. The happiest." I felt myself drifting off, safe and warm in his arms. Just before sleep claimed me, I felt him kiss my forehead and whisper, "I love you." "Marcus, I love you too," I murmured back. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the sound of Ethan humming in the kitchen. For a moment, I was disoriented. This wasn't my room. This wasn't my bed. And then everything came flooding back. The wedding. The confession. The kiss, real. I found Ethan making breakfast, wearing his terrible NYU sweatshirt and the most ridiculous bedhead I'd ever seen. When he turned and saw me, his entire face lit up. "Morning, boyfriend," he said, and I'd never heard anything better. "Morning." He crossed to me, wrapping me in his arms and kissing me thoroughly. "Sleep okay?" "Best I've slept in months." "Same." He went back to the stove, where he was making pancakes. "I was thinking we could just have a lazy Sunday. Maybe watch movies. Order in for dinner. Just be together? Sounds perfect." We spent the day exactly like that. Tangled together on the couch, watching movies we'd seen 100 times, stealing kisses during the boring parts. Ethan told me more about his family, about growing up feeling different but not understanding why. I told him about the years after I came out, the loneliness, and the gradual building of chosen family. "I want to be part of that," he said. "Your chosen family. If you'll have me, you already are. You have been for a while." That evening, as we sat on the couch with takeout containers spread across the coffee table, Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and grinned. "My mom wants to know when we're coming to visit again. Already? She's very excited about us. Fair warning, she's probably already planning our wedding." I laughed. "That's a little premature, is it?" He set down his phone, turning to face me fully. "I know we just started this officially anyway. But Marcus, when I think about the future, you're in every version of it. Every single one." My breath caught. Yeah. He took my hand, lacing our fingers together in that way that had become our signature. "I'm not saying we need to rush anything, but I want you to know this isn't casual for me. You're it for me. You're my forever person." "You're mine too," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "You have been since the day I met you. I just didn't know if I'd ever get to keep you. You get to keep me." He pulled me close, until I was practically in his lap. "For as long as you want me. Forever then? Forever it is." We kissed as the sun set outside our window, painting the room in shades of gold and pink. And I thought about how strange life was. How one unexpected request had changed everything. How pretending had led us to the truth. How the person I'd been afraid to love had been loving me back all along. "Hey, Marcus," Ethan said against my lips. "Yeah. Thank you for saying yes, for coming to the wedding, for giving me the courage to finally tell you how I felt, I pulled back to look at him, taking in his messy hair, his bright eyes, his soft smile. "Thank you for asking. For seeing me, for loving me back," always he promised. "I'm always going to love you back." And as we settled back into the couch, his arms around me, our future stretching out before us full of possibility and promise, I knew it was true. This was just the beginning of our story. The real one. The one where we got to be ourselves, together, for all the days to come. Our unexpected request had changed our lives forever, and I wouldn't change a single thing.